Right, I believe that we're live now. Right, good morning and welcome. This is Debbie Oldham from Governance Services. Under Agenda Item 1, Councillor Jessica Lennox was nominated as Chair prior to the start of the meeting. Are all members agreeable?
We are.
Thank you, they're all nodding. Therefore, Councillor Lennox is formally elected to the Chair.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this remote hearing of the Licensing Subcommittee. My name is Councillor Jess Lennox, and I will be chairing today's hearing. Before I proceed further, could I remind everybody that today's meeting is being streamed live on the City Council's YouTube channel. Could I ask the following members of the subcommittee to introduce themselves? Linda?
Hello, I'm Linda Richards, Councillor for Wetherby Ward.
Okay, and Abby?
Abigail Marshall Cutting, representing Little London, Woodhouse and the City Centre.
Thank you. So I'd like to start the hearing today by confirming that this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee meets the requirements of the Council's constitution, even though members of the panel are in remote attendance. While items today will be fully discussed as is usual, remote attendance requires a few slight changes as to how I'll manage the debate. Therefore, please can all attendees mute their microphone unless they're invited to speak, and this will avoid disruption from background noise. And can all participants please keep their cameras on during the hearing? All participants will be invited to introduce themselves at the start of the hearing to make it clear to public observers who will be involved in the proceedings. So I'll ask for your assistance and patience while we go through this process. So could I now invite officers to introduce themselves and mute your microphone once you've finished? I'll start with Rob.
Good morning. My name is Robert Brown. I'm a solicitor in Leeds City Council's Legal Services, and I'm the legal advisor to the subcommittee today, and I'm supported by my colleague and fellow solicitor, Philippa Murray.
Okay, thank you. Matthew?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Matthew, part of Entertainment Licensing, and today I'm supported by Samantha Longfellow Pennicott. Thank you.
Okay, Debbie?
Thank you. I'm Debbie Oldham. I'm the clerk today for the committee and I'm from Governance Services.
Okay, and then we also have Grace and Natasha on the call as well, who are, could you explain, Debbie, who Grace and Natasha are?
Yeah, Natasha Prosser is actually from Governance Services and she's actually doing the webcast today.
Yeah.
And Grace Young is from our localities team and she's just observing.
Thank you very much. Okay, and then Mr. Askin.
Yeah, I'm William Askin. I'm Secretary Seeking off the Nicole.
Thank you very much. And could I ask the objectors to introduce themselves? We've got Mr. Floyd.
Yeah, my name's George Floyd. I'm objecting to the application.
Thank you. So I think that's everyone on the screen has now been introduced. So moving through to the agenda, could I please ask the clerk to go through agenda items number 2 to 5?
Thank you, Chair. There are no appeals under agenda item 2. Agenda item 3, we have no exempt information. Agenda item 4, we've got no formal late items, but there has been some supplementary information which has been circulated to all relevant parties. And agenda item 5, could I ask any members to disclose any declare any disclosable pecuniary interests?
I don't have any. No.
I'll take silence. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so could the legal, oh, sorry, that's, yes, items 2 to 5. So agenda item number 6. So the application is to vary a club premises certificate in respect of Seacroft Village Hall Social Club. And that's York Road, Leeds, LS14 6JS. So could the legal advisor to the subcommittee please outline the procedure for the hearing?
Thank you, Chair. Our usual procedure for this type of application is that the applicant addresses the committee first, then any other parties who have indicated an intention to speak at the hearing would then address the committee. Then the applicant has the chance to respond to anything said by those other parties. In making its determination, the subcommittee will consider what is appropriate and proportionate to promote the licensing objectives, namely 1, the prevention of crime and disorder, 2, public safety, 3, the prevention of public nuisance, 4, the protection of children from harm. The regulations permit the subcommittee to set a time limit on presentations, providing the same time limit is applied to all parties. Our usual time limit is 15 minutes per party. and the applicant may wish to split their allocation between their initial presentation and their response to the other parties. For example, 10 minutes initially and 5 minutes at the end. Can I ask, first of all, Mr. Askin, whether you think that you would need any longer than 15 minutes to make your presentation?
I don't think so, no.
Thank you. And Mr. Floyd?
No, 15 minutes is fine.
Thank you. Then if the chair is happy, then a time limit of 15 minutes will apply to all presentations.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. After each presentation, the subcommittee members may wish to ask questions. The time for questions to be asked and answered is in addition to the time limit set for presentations. Please note we do not permit cross-examination in subcommittee. If any party feels there is a crucial question that needs to be asked and answered, please do not ask the person directly, but instead make a request to the chair, who will then determine whether or not the question should be put. Parties may request permission to call witnesses. Can I ask if any party wishes to call any witnesses today? Mr. Askin?
No witnesses.
Thank you. Mr. Floyd?
No.
Thank you. All documents that have previously been submitted have been copied and circulated to the subcommittee in advance. You should all be working to the same bundle, which is a main pack of 42 pages, or numbered to 42, and a supplementary document pack of 4 pages. It would be helpful when referring to documents to identify which document you're referring to by its bundle page number. Additional documents may now only be tabled with the consent of all the parties. Could I ask if there are any documents which any party wishes to refer to which haven't been included in the pack so far? Mr. Askin?
No additions.
Thank you. Mr. Floyd?
And the same answer from me.
Thank you. Please note your presentation is your only opportunity to address the subcommittee, so you need to make sure that you've included in your presentation everything that you wish to say and have taken into account. After the parties have made their presentations and after any questions, the subcommittee members will go into a private session. If members have any additional questions to ask, they will return to the meeting to ask those questions. They'll then return to private session to make their decision. And can all parties please remain in the meeting until they're asked to leave? All parties will be informed once the hearing has ended and will be advised of the decision in writing within 5 working days of today. Can I ask if there are any questions about the procedure we propose to follow before we commence the hearing?
No questions.
No questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So could the licensing officer please present the application?
Yeah, of course, and thank you. So members this morning are asked to consider an application to vary a club premises certificate in respect of Seacroft Village Hall, York Road, Leeds, LS14. The application is made to alter licensable activities to those proposed in the application form, and also to extend the licensable area by including the external area for consumption of alcohol only. This can be seen on the plan circulated in advance of this meeting, and the application form is attached to Appendix B on page 17 of the report. So the application has not attracted any representations from responsible authorities. However, it has attracted a total of 3 representations from local residents who object to the application largely on the grounds of public nuisance. One of those representations expresses concerns on how the premises currently operates, and copies are available for viewing at Appendix D starting on page 31 of the report. Finally, to assist the licensing subcommittee, a list providing licensable activities and the hours of other licensed premises within the vicinity of Seacroft Village Hall can be found on page 41, Appendix C of the report, and that is the application. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Okay, so now over to the applicant. So I can invite you now, Mr. Askin, to present your case. As we said, there's 15 minutes for you to do that in.
Right. Thank you very much. Case is quite simple, really. Firstly, we would like to be able to consume alcohol outside, which is still within the boundary of our premises. I wrongly thought the premises included just the building, but when I look for a definition, premises should include the whole property. On the 24th of July this year, the government proposed that they were introducing legislation to allow licensed premises to use land outside to assist with social distancing. We wrongly assumed that this would cover us. So on the 12th of July, we had guests and members outside on our reopening. Unfortunately, or fortunately, if you're a football supporter, Leeds United scored a last-minute goal ensuring promotion, and there was a huge cheer from the 10 or 15 people that were there. This prompted Mr. Floyd's first complaint. It's something that's never likely to happen again in the next 16 years. Drinking outside will only take place on bank holidays and Sundays because we don't open normally at any other time during the day. As far as the extra hour, we would like to be able to offer for special occasions only an extra hour on a Saturday night. These would be usually for special birthdays, anniversaries and national celebrations. It's not likely to be more than twice every 2 months. And the clientele of our premises and club are generally elderly and well behaved. And we've had no trouble whatsoever in the last 40 years. I don't think that the objections are very sound, and we do object to neighbours coming round and taking photographs, especially when we have a celebration like we did over the bank holiday weekend, covered by a temporary event notice, taking photographs of children whilst playing on the bouncy castles. I don't think that this application would cause any trouble whatsoever. I do, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to reopen my script, bear with me, make sure I'm not missing anything. So I believe now we are just moving to Mr. Floyd. Sorry, no, we'll do questions. We have questions first. So thank you, Mr. Askin. So does the subcommittee have any questions to the applicant at this time?
Yes, please.
Okay, Abby.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Askin, for your presentation. What I would like to ask, and reading from the objectors that have sent their objection through, your opening times has been questioned in terms of closing times and your inability to control the noise at an acceptable level. And they have actually detailed timings that you have gone over compared to the time that you're actually scheduled and licensed to open. What do you have to say about that?
I'm not certain of what specific event we are accused of here. We've had no trouble with any of the authorities over the last 40 years. And generally, things go on quite quietly and quite calmly. I've never personally been approached with any complaint.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have any other questions?
This one.
Hi, Linda.
Sorry, hi. I was picking the wrong button.
I saw your mouth moving.
Yes, Mr. Askin. I wonder how the impact of COVID and the restrictions on hours of sale and on places of sale has had on the number of people using the club recently.
Until recently, it reduced considerably. But following one of our staff contacting and being tested positive, we have now closed down for 3 weeks.
Okay, right. I'm sorry to hear that. But in terms of the numbers before then, would you say that the numbers of people using it had gone down significantly, or that it had merely sort of been the same sort of people because it is a local club?
It is local, and we tend to have very regular clientele, but certainly since reopening in July, numbers have reduced quite considerably. We've had to make that point to try and keep social distancing within our premises and try and keep a one-way system. And now we're into table service as well.
Okay, right. Thank you for that.
I have a question, Mr. Askin. So in the application form, there is a box. It's box H, and it says applications for anything of a similar description to that falling within E, F, or G. So E, F, or G are music, dance, etc. And it says that you've applied for this on every day 11 till 11 but till midnight on Saturday, but then no details have been put in this box as to what additionally to dance, music, or live music that might cover. So could you give us an idea of what additionally that might be, please?
Sorry about that. The filling in the form, it was probably a little bit rushed. We don't have many events. We certainly have very few live music. I think we've had one in the last 2 years. We do have the occasional disco, and we always ask for music to stop at 11:30 on party nights. We try to restrict parties to a maximum of 2 a month, because the staff are volunteers and they don't want to be working every week.
Okay, thank you. Right. And what else? So we've seen the site plan. So what the changes to the licensable area that you're applying for is the area at the front, which sometimes has cars on it, I believe, doesn't it? And then the 2 areas down the side of the building.
That's
just to
right,
confirm.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Does anyone else have any further questions? No, we may well come back for further questions later on, but at the minute, I think we're happy to move further on. I'm just checking I've not made any further notes. Okay. So could I please ask now then that the objectors present their case? So that's Mr. Floyd, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Our objection is based on the potential for noise and disturbance to our quiet enjoyment of our garden and property. I'll firstly talk about the application for extending the evening opening hours to midnight. In practical terms, this actually means past midnight when you include drinking up time. When the upstairs bar is rented out for parties, this will mean 1 o'clock in the morning, an unreasonably late hour in a densely populated area. Some of the parties are attended by up to 70 to 80 people. We suffer from the intrusion of noise now. This will be even later in the early hours of the morning, should the application be granted. In normal circumstances, the social club opens at 8 p.m. When there is a private party, the bar for that party opens at 7:30 p.m. When drinking up time is taken into account, this gives people an opportunity to consume alcohol for 4.5 and 5 hours respectively. People are at the most convivial after such lengthy drinking and want to bid people good night in a loud manner, which is then a disturbance to us. Our bedroom window overlooks the side of the village hall, which we have open for ventilation. Alongside all the loud good nights, there is the added noise of the taxis arriving, car doors slamming, and another round of good nights. We have lived in our current home since 1975, and we're both retired and have no desire to be disturbed at such a late hour. Moving on to outside drinking, this tends to be prevalent on Sunday afternoons, which is when we like to sit quietly in our garden, enjoying a quiet drink, read, and/or a barbecue. Whilst the application is being heard today, we've had to put up with this all through the summer. It tends to start at noon and goes on well into the evening. As more and more alcohol is consumed, the noise levels rise until it is unbearable. The noise includes shouting, shrieking laughter, horn pipping from passers-by, and football chanting. When under the influence of alcohol, the attendees seem to deem this behaviour as acceptable. We do not, and do not see why we should have to put up with it. On the last bank holiday in August, I was in our garden and was shouted by name by a village hall customer, and excuse my language, and called a wanker. Why should we have to put up with such behaviour? The nearest commercial premises to the village hall is the Cricketers pub, which is situated just across the village green. A few years ago, the Cricketers applied to extend their opening hours, and this was rejected. Sustainability is put forward as one of the reasons for the application. There is no commercial reason why the village hall needs an extension in hours. It is financially sound. There was approximately £48,000 in its bank account when I resigned as its secretary in the summer of 2018. This sum varied very little in the 10 years we were on the committee. The only staff costs are for the part-time cleaner. I was a committee member for 10 years, and in that time, bar sales increased year on year, each year. If the Cricketers can sustain itself with all the costs that they have as a commercial premises, so can the village hall, with no wage cost to speak of and a very small rent. The village hall itself is a charitable organisation, and the social club on whose behalf this application is made rent the village hall for social purposes, which in our view can be accommodated within the current restrictions. Rita, my wife, was the booking secretary for about 10 years, and no one ever cancelled a booking because the bar closed at 11 p.m. The village hall and the social club are both run by the same committee, and in recent years has become less inclined to adhere to licensing regulations, which led to my wife and me resigning from the committee in the summer of 2018. Examples are drinking for free. Whilst not against the licensing regulations, it is behaviour which we were not comfortable observing, and more importantly for this panel is the habit of some members of the committee, plus selected members of the club, staying in the club and consuming alcohol well after the expiration of the licensed hours. They are colloquially known as lock-ins. The current committee are incapable of disciplining themselves to run the social club within the licensing regulations or the current COVID-19 restrictions, as outlined in my initial objection and subsequent further comments submitted with our notice of intention. Further to those submissions, on Saturday the 10th of October, members of the committee were observed leaving the premises at 11:55 p.m, that's 5 to midnight. They have been in the premises with the lights off, and their disregard for rules and regulations knows no bounds. I now turn to the statement in support of the application, which makes reference to wanting to continue birthday celebrations, etc. Most birthday, engagement and similar celebrations are celebrated by people who book the village hall as a venue and have no association with it on an ongoing basis. It is unreasonable for us as close local residents to have to endure excessive noise associated with these parties in the early hours of the morning, and has no bearing on the sustainability of the village hall. The supporting statement also makes reference to 3 of the 4 immediate neighbours having no objection. Clearly, this is not the case, as you have 3 objections from those very same neighbours, namely number 1, Church Close, number 3, Church Close, which are both within 10 metres of the village hall, and ourselves. Our boundary fence is 24 metres away from the village hall. The 4th neighbour referred to is probably 46 Hansby Place, which is occupied by committee members. It also states that the committee are doing their utmost to ensure compliance with the COVID-19 regulations. From our observations, this is clearly not the case, and we give 3 examples. Number 1, a lack of hand washing facilities for food handlers. Number 2, non-existent social distancing of the August bank holiday, including committee members who are actually supposed to be policing the event. In fact, some committee members now do have COVID and are self-isolating, and as aforementioned by Bill Askin, the village hall is closed until the 31st of October. And also disregard of the 10 p.m. closing time. We urge the panel to reject this application on the basis that rejection is appropriate to furthering the licensing objective of preventing public nuisance. Thank you for your time and trust that you will give due consideration to all 3 objections.
Thank you very much, Mr. Floyd. So does the subcommittee have any questions for the objectors?
I don't.
I'm not sure that I have any questions at this time, but as I say, we may come back and ask further questions after we've moved into discussion. So, to the applicant, you have a further 5 minutes to summarise your application, and you may wish to address some of the questions, issues raised by the objection.
Yes, thank you very much. Couple of points. One, Mr. Floyd says that the neighbour at number 1 Church Close has complained. That's a Mr. David Mulligan, and he has not complained. In fact, he has supported us. 2, about the commercial and expenses. We have spent this year £24,000 in repairs, renewals and redecorations. This is a very much a commercial enterprise, and we have to keep going. I take great exception to the accusations of lock-ins. This is unsupported and not proven, and take these accusations very seriously. Mr. Floyd's premises is at least one property remote from the village hall, and he shouldn't be suffering that much on a Sunday afternoon. As far as the events go, when we were told that we shouldn't be outside under our normal licensing certificate, we took temporary event notices out to cover the following 5 weekends so that we could enjoy some of the summer and the reopening. I believe that we do a good job. Nothing further to add.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Askin. So the subcommittee will now move into private session to deliberate on the application. Could I please ask that all parties, including the applicant and their representatives and the licensing officers, remain available should the subcommittee have any additional questions? And if there are any additional questions, you'll be invited back into the meeting by the clerk. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Can
you.
you move us into the rooms, please, Tasha?
Okay, so we're just waiting for Linda.
In response to what I said, he said, well, lock-ins are unproven.
Mr. Askin needs to know that his microphone is not muted.
Yeah, just to make sure everyone keeps mute until speaking. We're just waiting for everybody to get back in for a couple of questions.
There we go.
Hi everyone. Do we have everyone in that we need in? I believe so, yes.
Yes, I think we've got everybody.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. So we've just come back in, the committee has a couple more questions that we just want to put to both Mr. Askin and Mr. Floyd. Mr. Askin, looking at the extended area that you're applying for the licensable activity, so we're talking about the space around the front and side of the building.
Yeah.
Could you just explain to us and describe to us how you envisage that space being used? For example, the front of the building, does that usually have car parking there, or how is it used at the minute, and how would it be used for licensable activities?
At the minute, it's basically a car park, but on the odd summer day that we do get on summer Sundays, we put tables out and the cars tend to go around the side and the back.
Okay, so that's right. So it's usually the front space that's used for people to sit.
Generally, the side near the garden and the area at the back are not very attractive for sitting out. There's no view and nothing to see.
Okay.
But at the front, you've got a garden space as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Floyd, do you have any comments on the use of the outside space at all? You're still muted, Mr. Floyd.
Could you take?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, the only comment I would make is that Mr. Askin's quite right. It's the front of the building that is used, but also that spreads round to the side, which is sort of the side facing our side fence. There's a temporary structure there. I don't know whether it's a smoking shelter or a rain shelter. I'm not quite sure. So that's used also.
Okay. Okay, I believe that covers the questions we had there. Any other questions from any members of the subcommittee? No? Okay, thanks for that. So what we'll do now is we'll close the hearing now, and the subcommittee will go back into our breakout room to finish and finalise our response. Thank you everybody for your attendance, and that concludes the business for today, and you'll be informed in writing of the decision within 5 working days.